Thank you for tuning in to Koppen with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen, and we're with comic Catherine Bloom. Catherine Bloom, how the hell are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing so good. Thank you so much for coming on, because you are the yeast queen. If you look
I
at
am.
on both Instagram and Twitter, you're the only yeast queen there is.
I am. I'm the only one.
Although you had to put an underscore at the beginning of yeast queen, so it leads me to believe that the former yeast queen died of a yeast infection.
I think that she might have, but her Twitter is not dead.
Oh yeah, yeah. Do you have competing yeast queens on Twitter?
Apparently so. I haven't actually Googled it, but I just know that the yeast underscore queen on Twitter was already taken. So I had to adapt with an underscore yeast queen.
Fuck that bitch. What's the random podcast?
So I have a podcast that's like a radio play series.
Yeah, what is that?
It's like, so it's basically like a play that you hear rather than see. And a lot of it, they're all completely unrelated, different short plays.
And so you have to kind of speak out the action because we can't see it.
Yeah. So I normally narrate them, and then I ask a bunch of different actors to come in and do the voices for different parts. And then we normally weave the parts together and then add sound effects and everything to make it come to life more.
And do you write all the parts? And is that what I could expect with Jews of the Corn, a play by Catherine Bloom?
Yes. So Jews of the Corn will be coming out on Halloween as another episode of Random Podcast.
Is it a horror radio play?
Somewhat. It's more, it's just kind of like absurd, I guess. It's not, it's like, it's about rural teenage Jews converting to Christianity for clout.
Why would they convert for clout?
So it's like loosely based off of, so I grew up in like an area where like there was this thing called Young Life, which was this kind of like after school.
Stupid.
It was so
Young Life
stupid.
Sounds so corny.
It was this like after school Christian club.
Oh, okay.
That kids would join, but it was, at least like in my year in school, I don't know about like, before or after, but around when I was in high school, it was very much like kind of a thing that like you went to these youth group meetings, like kind of to be cool. And it was definitely a way that like people like hooked up with each other, even though they were like very much like, I love Jesus, I'm a virgin. Like we all knew like whatever.
Yeah, like I think I had that same experience where like I grew up in the church, and so we also had junior youth fellowship and senior youth fellowship. So when you're in junior high and high school, and it was cool, man. Like it was the fucking place to be. They had cool overnights where you stay up all night at these mega churches and just fucking go nutty. And I had the experience too, where like girls were walking in stripping to boys to men, and I'm like, dude, this is the fucking shit. And other people were like, you're just having this stupid existence as a Christian preteen or teen. And I'm like, no, it was amazing.
Yeah, it was so I mean, so Jews of the Corn is kind of like that, but then being like, but it's like these Jewish characters that are like, okay, we want to get in on this, but we're Jewish, so like we can't really, which is loosely like somewhat I don't know, I guess. So I grew up Jewish, and I never went to one of these Young Life meetings, but I definitely thought about it. And there was a girl who I went to Hebrew school with who was on the cross country team with me, who started like going regularly. And I don't know if like the other people on the team knew that she was Jewish, but she was like very much like, oh yeah, like it's not religious. Like there's just like a little prayer at the beginning, but we just like hang out with each other.
So was she trying to pass as a Christian then? Like how are the Jews of the Corn trying to kind of, go in incognito and get the clout without being revealed as Jewish?
Yeah, so like in Jews of the Corn, one of the characters is because she's like already kind of like established herself in this sort of Christian world, and then the other one is sort of coming in being like, this is weird, and like knows that it's wrong, but like wants the clout anyways, so is still doing it.
And which one are you? Are you the established one, or the one trying to kind of go in and try to make a go of it?
So technically I'm the one going in, although I don't like to say that's me, but
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
burn material because you're
If I
also
were
the
to like put
narrator.
myself in this story, I would
Oh, okay.
put myself as that.
But you're also the narrator. So I mean, if you're doing a character in this radio play, do you change your voice or do you?
I normally don't do the characters, so I
Oh,
just
okay.
did the narration for this, which kind of I hope the narration sort of comes across as its own character.
Oh yeah, of course. It's
But
like Gossip Girl, sure.
yeah, yeah, exactly, just like Gossip Girl.
But it's
Um,
so funny because I mean, you follow Yeast Queen, and you are just highly visual. I mean, like first of all, on Twitter it says thespian thought,
Thespian.
and yeah, so I'll have to yeah, thespian thought or thespian thought, and your it's very if I know what thought means, it would seem to be consistent with certain of the pictures on here. So yeah, what is a thought? What is a thespian thought, and how does your Instagram content? How is that consistent or inconsistent with the notion of thespian thought?
So I would say thespian thought is kind of like I don't want to sort of like I learned this term recently, and by recently I mean last night. I learned the term femcel, which is like an incel, but I guess the girl version. And so I personally I feel like uh, I associate with that, like especially like as a teenager,
Okay.
and like sort of thespian culture is very very. I feel like people that did like a lot of musical theater in like high school and stuff get this, where like people are so touchy and like everyone is like giving each other back rubs and stuff, and like everyone like maybe some of the guys are like just gay, but like all the girls are bisexual. And, like it's just like it's the most sexual place ever without people really like realizing that. They're just kind of like, oh, I'm just like doing this, but it's like this is a straight up sex cult. So I feel like thespian thought stems from that, and then with my just general addiction to taking thirst traps, and then my way to validate them to myself is to try to attempt to make them funny.
But then, how does femcel play into thespian thought, though? Are they consistent or inconsistent?
I feel like it plays into thespian thought because a lot of people that are thespians, like especially when they're teenagers, are not very cool and don't necessarily like get laid or like date in high school. Or
Yeah.
if they do, it's like kind of a weird scenario where it's like, why is that musical theater person dating like that normal guy?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I mean, you like taking thirst traps. You make them funny, and of course they're hilarious. And so that would make you. Does that make you a thespian thought then? Because
I would say that makes me a thespian thought because I would
yeah.
say I am taking my thirst traps for, I would say, other thespian thoughts.
You're like
So I would
they know
say,
what I'm trying to do here. They know that I enjoy taking thirst traps and I'm making them hilarious.
right,
And
right.
just because I'm taking these things doesn't mean it's an invitation to approach me with 4,000 creepy messages.
No, it's
In
just
the
an
same way,
invitation for the thespian thoughts.
in the same way, like the people back in the day in the theater department or whatever, like they're all touchy feeling, but that doesn't mean they were actually getting laid.
No, yeah, definitely not. I mean, I
Okay.
would also say like a lot of the like, I don't know, it's so like strange because a lot of the touchy feely like was very sexual, but like I feel like I didn't realize that like until fairly recently, like looking back on it being like that was so sexual, whereas at the time I was just like I'm so random and free and fun and like
Like I was being molested while I was standing there backstage.
yeah, maybe not molested, I would say it was consensual, but yeah.
You're like I was being felt up and I didn't know I made it to second base.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so like how does this jive with the upbringing then? I think one of your topics today was super interesting to me, which is the fact that you went to a high school where if you said the word fuck, you would get a 3-day suspension.
you would. So I never got suspended for saying fuck because I was kind of a narc in high school.
You're busy feeling up other people backstage.
I was busy being a thespian thought. I only said fuck around other thespian thoughts. Um, but I would say like it was just such a weird rule. Just I think like this is like the way it is with like just a lot of high schools in America, but like just these like dumb arbitrary rules like you get 3 days suspension if you say fuck, or like if you show up wearing shorts that are too short, then like you have to go change, or I don't know, just like things like that, which is obviously like, because I'm smaller and shorter, I feel like I could also with the dress code like get away with a lot more. Um, but like it still was like weird for everybody, I would say. So just like these rules that like kind of mean nothing but are just really funny, like thinking back on them.
Yeah.
I'm also like, I really want to know how many of those are still in place, because I feel
Yeah.
like all of them are.
Because you could just, I mean, like if they could look at you now, I mean, you're laying down in the sand, you got a swimsuit on, and you're eating a chocolate covered banana.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
just ridiculous. I mean, like people thinking that would be sexually suggest. I mean, I suppose it's suggestive, but to imply that that is more sexual than humorous is pretty funny.
Yeah. Right.
And like somebody like me, like
I also just think it's funny to sort of like that like confusion too of like taking a thirst trap that's like clearly there's like something really off about it, and like you don't like it's not sexual because it's like I'm eating a chocolate covered banana like in
yeah,
a
yes.
fake like a beach volleyball like sand pit, like I'm not even at the beach, um in like not even a swimsuit. I mean, I feel like I'm in like an old ballet leotard from when I was like 15. So I don't know. It's also just like, I guess like somebody could look at that and be like, that's hot, which I'd be like, yeah, thank you. But like, it's not, I don't know. Yeah.
Just like it's hot because I am fit and good looking. It's not hot because I'm being sexual.
Yeah.
Like anything I do is sexy because I'm sexy. Like
Because
eating
I'm a thespian hot.
yeah, like eating a head of lettuce on a spin bike. That's another example. You're like, some people are like, well, she's in bikini, so I'm happy. But then you're like, but I'm hilarious because I'm eating a head of lettuce.
I'm eating a head of lettuce. I'm on a spin bike and I'm wearing a wig that makes me look like an old woman.
Like, and some of this to me, like I'm probably I'm voluntarily celibate, and I have been for decades. And I'm just like meaning I was pretty awesome early on in life, and then later on I didn't like the options I was getting, so I kind of took myself out of the market. But it's such that some of the things are kind of shocking. Like to see anybody, flash any sort of skin on Instagram to me is shocking. Like somebody like me needs to, like with a stunted, I don't know, it's like a stunted growth. Like I stopped like, I don't know, I stopped like having adult relationships when I was fucking 20 or some shit. Like is any of this meant to, like, what would you say to somebody who's so prudish that he or she is shocked by this? It's still funny, but it's kind of, it's eye catching. And I guess that's part of the point.
Yeah. I mean, I understand like that humor isn't for everybody. And like some people just genuinely don't get it, which I don't mean to like antagonize anyone with being like, listen, like if you think like my stuff is like too suggestive or something, I also am sort of like, I mean, that's your opinion, but also I feel like thirst traps are so common now that I'm sort of like, do you really not follow any other accounts where people are constantly posting thirst traps,
Oh
especially in
no,
comedy
oh,
too?
it's so, no, I mean, but meaning
Yeah.
it's notable across the board.
Yeah.
So meaning if I'm a prude and I'm like looking at some of these, following some of these female comedians feed is they post something and I'm like, dude, obviously I'm just like this person is obviously hilarious and what he or she is doing is funny, but it's like I'm still kind of a prude at heart, and I look at this and I'm like, I want to suspend myself for 3 days for seeing someone in a bathing suit.
Yeah.
So
No,
it's
I mean,
just like, yeah, how would you like, how do you address just like a prude like that? It's just kind of like grow up and you're emotionally stunted and maybe you need help.
yeah. Or
Yeah.
just like, you don't have to look at my Instagram. Like, I
Oh no,
don't.
absolutely. Oh no,
Yeah.
oh no. Like I follow you because you're funny, and I'm looking at your Instagram because you're the East Queen. But
Yeah.
and I'm speaking more generally, just in terms of like the role of thirst traps in comedians, social media. What do you think the role is?
I don't know, but I do like, I've noticed at least since like moving to New York, which was like about a year ago, and like getting involved in the comedy scene here, which I feel like where I was before, I was in Chicago for a year. And at least there, like personally, I'm sure the circles are there, but like I just didn't find a circle that was like that supportive of like female comics, like specifically like writers and stand up.
Yeah.
Um, so like since being in New York, I feel like I've like found or just like known of like more and more people like that, and like just like followed all these people that like I've met on social media, and I've just like noticed that's like a lot more of a trend. And I feel like just being around and just like seeing just like other female and like non-male identifying comics that are like posting thirst traps a lot, like as a way to be funny, is like super validating, because it was also something that I did like I feel like I did that a lot like in college, like as a joke, and then kind of stopped because I was like, I don't know what the deal is with like industry stuff or like jobs or like how people will view me, so I kind of stopped for like a year out of school.
Okay.
Yeah, but then like I don't know, just like viewing that is just like I'm like, okay, yeah, like fuck it, I'm just gonna do it.
It was, it's kind of freeing when you kind of stop pretending that there's an industry person, viewing every one of your posts. You're like, yeah, okay, well, I'm going to now be myself, and this is me, and I enjoy the fuck out of it. I enjoy thirst traps, and I'm the yeast queen. I can make them hilarious.
Right.
Oh
Also,
yeah,
I'm like, whatever these like broad industry people are that like I had in my mind, that was more of just like an idea of a person rather than like an actual person. I
yeah.
was like, half of these like quote unquote industry people like are other people that are just posting thirst traps. So,
And to the extent they look at it and they're prudish like me, it's just like they know the problem is them. Like
yeah.
I'm a nuanced individual. I understand that it's just like I'm a fucking, I'm just a weirdo. I'm weird in the same way that other people are who, there's certain thirst trap people or whatever who are weird in their own way. It's like I'm weird because I'm a prude. It's just I'm weird in exactly the opposite way.
Yeah. And you know what? If that's your thing, it's like I I totally respect that. I
Dude,
love
and oh, I love that. And coming from the Yeast Queen, that means a lot because it's like, you are personifying the hilarious thirst trap. And so for you to say that it's fine for me to be a prude, I love that. It's like I will treasure that going forward. Whenever somebody tries to prude shame me, I'll be
it.
like, who has co-signed my prudishness is the Yeast Queen. All right. And I'm talking the underscore Yeast Queen on Twitter and also the Yeast underscore Queen on Instagram. So Yeast Queen, Catherine Bloom, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.